The alarm bells rang through the bridge of the Galactic Federation research vessel Harmony's Edge as something appeared on their long-range sensors. Captain Zethkar moved his forearms across the control panel with practiced ease, while his large eyes focused on the readings that made no sense at all. "What do we have out there?" he asked his crew, while his voice carried the authority of someone who had spent 30 years exploring the unknown regions of space. Science Officer Vexoni turned from her station with confusion, clear on her blue-scaled face. "Captain, the readings are very strange and I cannot identify what we are looking at. But the energy signature does not match anything in our database." The bridge crew worked at their stations while the massive view screen showed empty space ahead of them. They were currently traveling through the outer edge of the Kepler 442 system on a routine survey mission to catalog new worlds for possible colonization by Federation members. "Show me what you have found," Captain Zethkar said, while he moved closer to the science station. The view screen changed to display a detailed scan of something drifting in space roughly 200,000 kilometers ahead of their current position. The object appeared to be artificial and roughly the size of a small transport vessel, but its design was unlike anything any of them had ever seen before. Dr. Quill S. looked up from his biological research station with his large compound eyes, reflecting the light from the displays around him. "Captain, this is very unusual because the materials that make up this object should not be able to survive in deep space for any extended period of time." "Explain what you mean by that," the captain said while he studied the strange readings on the main display. "The hull appears to be made from basic iron and carbon alloys with traces of other common elements, but these materials would normally break down under cosmic radiation within a few years at most. Yet this object shows signs of having been in space for much longer than that." Communications Officer Hintal spoke up from her position near the back of the bridge. "Captain, I am detecting very weak power readings from inside the object, which means it might still have some kind of functioning systems." Security Chief Krathum stood up from his chair with his massive frame casting a shadow across the bridge deck. "I recommend extreme caution, because we do not know what we are dealing with and it could be some kind of trap or weapon." Captain Zethkar considered their options while he looked at the mysterious object on the screen. In all his years of exploration, he had never encountered anything quite like this strange vessel that seemed to defy basic principles of engineering and material science. "Run a full-spectrum analysis and trace back its point of origin if possible," he ordered, while the crew began working to gather more information about their discovery. The next few minutes passed in relative silence, as the various officers ran their scans and analyzed the data they collected. The results that came back made everyone on the bridge very uncomfortable. "Captain, you are not going to believe this," Vexoni said while she double-checked her readings. "The trajectory analysis shows that this object came from the Sol system." A hush fell over the bridge crew because everyone knew what that meant. The Sol system contained Sol 3, which was classified as a Class 15 Deathworld in all Federation records. "That cannot be correct," Dr. Quilles said, while his voice showed his disbelief. "Class 15 worlds are completely uninhabitable, and no intelligent life could possibly evolve under those conditions." Captain Zethkar felt a chill run through his body as he considered the implications. Class 15. Deathworlds were planetary environments, so hostile that even the most advanced Federation technology could barely maintain a research station on their surface for more than a few days before critical systems would fail. "Run the analysis again and make sure there are no errors in the calculations," he ordered, while hoping that somehow they had made a mistake. The second analysis came back with exactly the same results and showed that the mysterious vessel had definitely originated from somewhere in the Sol system, before drifting to its current location. Engineer Telmuth looked up from his station with worry clear in his expression. "Captain, if something actually built this vessel on a Class 15 world, then we might be dealing with technology and biology that we do not understand at all. What are our options?" Captain Zethkar asked while he tried to decide on the best course of action for his crew and his ship. "We could simply catalog the object and report it to Federation Command for further investigation," Security Chief Krathum suggested. "That would be the safest option and would follow standard protocols for unknown contacts." Dr. Quilles shook his head while he looked at the readings on his display. "Captain, This could be the discovery of a lifetime, and we might never get another chance to study something like this up close. We could dock with the object and send a boarding party to investigate, Communications Officer Heintal said. If there are still functioning systems inside, we might be able to learn something about whoever built it. The captain weighed their options while he considered the risks and benefits of each possible course of action. On one hand, they could play it safe and simply report their discovery to higher authorities, but on the other hand, this might be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to make contact with something completely new. "What are the risks of boarding the vessel?" he asked his security chief. "Unknown, but potentially very high," Kratum replied. "We have no idea what kind of life forms might have built this thing, or what kind of diseases or toxins they might carry. The atmospheric readings show that the interior of the vessel contains a mixture of nitrogen and oxygen, with trace amounts of other gases," Science Officer Vexoni reported. "It is similar to what we would expect on a habitable world, but the concentrations are different from anything we have seen before." Captain Zethkar made his decision while he looked at his crew. "We are going to dock with the vessel and conduct a limited investigation with full safety protocols in place." "Sir, are you sure that is wise?" Security Chief Kratum asked. "We are explorers, and this is what we do," the captain replied. "We will take every precaution, but we cannot pass up this opportunity to learn something new about the galaxy." The Harmony's Edge began to change course toward the mysterious vessel, while the crew prepared for what might be the most important discovery in Federation history. The docking process took almost 2 hours as Engineer Telmoth carefully maneuvered the Harmony's Edge alongside the strange vessel, while Captain Zethkar watched every reading on his displays with growing concern about what they might find inside. "Docking clamps secured and airlocks are aligned," Telmoth reported while he ran through his final safety checks. "Atmospheric readings from the other ship show breathable air, but I recommend full environmental suits for the boarding party." Security Chief Kratum assembled his team of 4 officers while they put on their protective gear and checked their equipment one final time. Dr. Quillas joined the boarding party with his portable scientific instruments, while Communications Officer Hintal brought her translation devices in case they encountered any active computer systems. "Remember that we have no idea what we are dealing with, so everyone stays together, and no one touches anything without permission," Captain Zethkar told the boarding party before they entered the airlock. The airlock cycled through its sequence, while the boarding party waited nervously for their first look inside a vessel that had come from a world where no life should exist. When the inner door opened, they found themselves looking into a corridor that was dimly lit by emergency lighting systems that somehow still functioned after years in space. "The architecture is very different from anything we have seen before," Dr. Quillas observed while he scanned the walls and ceiling with his instruments. "Everything appears to be built for bipedal creatures approximately 2 meters tall." The corridor stretched ahead of them with doors leading off to various compartments, while signs in an unknown language were mounted on the walls. The construction was clearly artificial, but used materials and techniques that seemed primitive compared to standard Federation technology. "Look at these control panels," Communications Officer Hintal said, while she examined what appeared to be manual switches and buttons instead of the touch-sensitive interfaces that every Federation ship used. "They actually have physical controls that you have to move with your hands." Security Chief Kratum kept his weapon ready while he led the group deeper into the ship, but so far they had encountered no signs of life or any immediate threats to their safety. The emergency lighting cast strange shadows on the walls while their footsteps echoed in the quiet corridors. "Captain, we are finding evidence of a very different approach to technology," Dr. Quillas reported over the communication link. "These beings appear to have favored simple mechanical systems over advanced electronics." They reached what appeared to be the main living area of the ship, where they found furniture sized for the mysterious bipedal creatures, along with various personal items scattered around the room. Everything suggested that this vessel had been occupied by living beings who had daily routines and personal belongings, just like any other intelligent species. "Over here," Security Chief Kratum called out while he stood near what looked like a sleeping area. "I have found the first body." The boarding party gathered around while Dr. Quillas began his examination of the deceased creature. It was indeed bipedal and roughly 2 meters tall, but its physical structure was unlike anything in Federation records. The being had only 2 arms instead of the 4 that most intelligent species possessed, and its bone structure appeared surprisingly delicate. This is very strange because this creature should not have been able to survive even basic environmental changes, Dr. Quilles said while he ran his medical scanner over the body. The bone density is much lower than what we would expect from a species that evolved on a high-gravity world. The creature was covered in artificial materials that appeared to be some form of clothing rather than natural protection like fur or scales. Its skin was thin and appeared to have no natural defenses against radiation or temperature changes. How could something this fragile have evolved on a Class 15 Deathworld communications officer, Hintal wondered, while she looked at the strange being. That is exactly what we need to find out, Dr. Quilles replied while he continued his scans. We need to locate their computer systems and see what information we can gather about these creatures and their home world. The boarding party moved through the ship while they searched for the main computer core or any other systems that might contain useful information. They found several more bodies of the mysterious beings along with clear evidence that this vessel had been home to a crew of approximately 12 individuals. The computer core should be somewhere near the center of the ship. Communications, Officer Hintal said while she followed the power conduits that ran through the walls. These beings used a very different approach to ship design, but the basic principles should still apply. They found the computer room behind a heavy door that required manual operation instead of the automatic systems that every Federation ship used. Inside, they discovered banks of primitive computing equipment that somehow still showed signs of minimal power. I think I can access their basic systems, Hintal said, while she connected her translation equipment to what appeared to be a main terminal. The technology is very old, but it follows logical patterns. After several minutes of careful work, she managed to bring up what looked like the ship's main display screen. Text in the unknown language scrolled across the monitor while various status indicators showed the current condition of different ship systems. I am getting some translation of their language, she reported while her equipment processed the alien text. This vessel is designated as something called UES New Horizon. What does UES mean? Security Chief Kratium asked. Still working on that, but I think it might be some kind of organizational designation, Hintal replied while more text appeared on the screen. I am also picking up references to something called Earth, which might be their name for their homeworld. Dr. Quilles looked up from his examination of another body, while his expression showed growing amazement. If these creatures really came from Sol 3, then everything we thought we knew about Class 15 worlds needs to be reconsidered. Keep working on those computer systems, Captain Zethkar ordered over the communication link. We need to learn everything we can about these beings and their capabilities. Communications Officer Hintal continued her work while the translation software gradually decoded more of the alien language. What she found in the ship's databases would change everything the Federation thought it knew about life in the universe. Communications Officer Hintal worked for another hour before she managed to access deeper levels of the ship's computer system, and what she found made her call for Captain Zethkar to come aboard the vessel immediately. The translation software had decoded enough of the alien language to reveal information that challenged everything the Federation understood about life in the galaxy. Captain, you need to see this personally, she reported while her voice carried a mixture of excitement and fear. The data in these computer files is beyond anything we expected to find. Captain Zethkar joined the boarding party within minutes, while he brought Science Officer Vexoni with him to help analyze whatever they had discovered. The computer terminal displayed scrolling text that the translation software converted into readable Federation standard language. These beings call themselves humans, and their homeworld is indeed the Class 15 Deathworld that we know as Sol 3, Hintal explained while she pointed to the translated text on the screen. But according to their records, there are billions of them living on the planet's surface. Dr. Quilles looked up from his medical examination of the human bodies, with disbelief clear on his face. That cannot be possible because no species could survive on a Class 15 world in such numbers. The computer files contain detailed medical information about human biology. Hintal continued while she brought up different sections of data. According to their own records, these humans routinely survive in environmental conditions that would kill most Federation species within minutes. Science Officer Vexoni studied the medical data, while her instruments analyzed the information that appeared on the screen. These readings show that humans can survive in temperatures ranging from below freezing to levels that would cook most known life forms. "Show me more of their biological data," Captain Zethkar ordered while he tried to understand how such resilient creatures could have evolved. The medical files revealed that humans could hold their breath underwater for extended periods, while most Federation species would drown within minutes. Their bones could withstand impacts that would shatter the skeletons of other intelligent races, and their blood chemistry allowed them to process toxins that would be instantly fatal to anyone else. Look at this section about their recreational activities, Communications Officer Hintal said while she accessed another part of the database. They deliberately put themselves in dangerous situations for something they call entertainment. The files showed that humans regularly participated in activities that involved jumping from great heights, with only fabric devices to slow their fall or racing vehicles at speeds that would be considered suicidal by any reasonable safety standards. They climbed mountains in conditions that would require full environmental suits for most species, and swam in bodies of water that contained predatory creatures. They have an entire category of activities they call extreme sports, Science Officer Vexoni observed while she read through the translated data. These humans actively seek out dangerous experiences as a form of recreation. Engineer Telmoth accessed the ship's construction files while he tried to understand how such primitive technology could function in deep space. What he discovered changed his understanding of human engineering capabilities completely. "Captain, their construction methods are not primitive at all," he reported while he studied the technical specifications. "These humans have developed materials and building techniques specifically designed to survive in the most hostile environments imaginable. The ship's hull was made from alloys that could withstand cosmic radiation levels that would destroy most Federation vessels within days. Every system was built with multiple backup functions and manual controls that would continue working even if the main power systems failed completely. They design everything to be repairable with basic tools and simple materials," Telmoth continued while he examined the engineering drawings. "This is not primitive technology, but rather highly specialized survival engineering." Security Chief Kratum discovered the ship's armory while exploring the lower levels, and what he found inside made his blood run cold. The weapons were crude by Federation standards but showed an understanding of combat that went far beyond anything their peaceful civilization had ever developed. "Captain, these humans are not just survivors, but they are also warriors," he reported, while he examined the various weapons and protective gear. "Their combat equipment shows that they have extensive experience with warfare. The armory contained records of training exercises where humans practiced fighting in multiple types of environments, including underwater combat and zero-gravity warfare. Their weapons were designed to function in conditions that would disable most Federation technology, and their protective gear could maintain life support in hostile environments for extended periods. These training records show humans fighting in volcanic environments and Arctic conditions that would kill most species instantly," Kratum continued while he reviewed the combat data. "They have tactical knowledge for warfare in environments that we consider uninhabitable." Dr. Quilles made another disturbing discovery when he accessed the ship's biological research files. The humans had been studying other forms of life on their world, and the creatures they shared their planet with were beyond anything the Federation had ever encountered. "Captain, their home world contains predatory animals that hunt in organized groups and individual creatures that could destroy an entire Federation landing party," he reported, while he showed the others images from the biological database. "These humans evolved alongside monsters that make our most dangerous species look harmless. The files showed creatures called sharks that could bite through metal and land predators called bears that could tear apart vehicles with their bare hands. There were poisonous creatures whose venom could kill hundreds of humans and insects, that carried diseases capable of wiping out entire populations. How did they survive long enough to develop intelligence?" Science Officer Vexoni wondered while she looked at images of the terrifying creatures that shared the human homeworld. They did not just survive, but they became the dominant species on their planet. Dr. Quilles replied while he continued reading through the biological data. According to these files, humans hunt many of these dangerous creatures for food and use others as working animals. Captain Zethkar realized that everything the Federation believed about Class 15 worlds and the limits of biological adaptation was completely wrong. These humans represented something that should not exist according to all known science, but the evidence was undeniable. We need to access their communication systems and find out if there are more of them out there, he decided, while the implications of their discovery began to sink in. Communications Officer Hintal managed to activate the human ship's communication array, while the boarding party continued exploring the vessel, and what she discovered made everyone freeze with shock as active signals began coming through the speakers from somewhere in the direction of the Sol system. "Captain, we are receiving live transmissions from their homeworld," she reported while her voice shook with the implications of what they were hearing. "These humans are not extinct, and they appear to have an active civilization with multiple space programs." The communication signals contained voices speaking in the human language, while the translation software worked to decode what they were saying. Captain Zethkar listened to the translated conversations with growing concern as he realized that humanity was not only alive but actively expanding into space. "This transmission is from something called Houston Control to a vessel designated Explorer 7. Heintal explained while she adjusted the communication equipment. "They are discussing supply runs to what sounds like permanent colonies on other worlds." Science Officer Vexoni monitored the signals while she tried to understand the scope of human space operations. The communications suggested that humans had established settlements on multiple worlds in their local star systems and were actively mining resources from asteroids and planetary moons. "They are talking about terraforming projects on worlds that we classified as uninhabitable," she reported while she listened to more of the translated conversations. "These humans are not just surviving in hostile environments, but they are actively changing them to suit their needs." Engineer Telmoth worked to access more of the ship's technical systems, while the communication array continued receiving signals from human space. What he found in the engineering databases suggested that human technology was far more advanced than their initial assessment had indicated. "Captain, their propulsion systems use principles that we have never seen before," he reported while he studied the technical specifications. "They achieve faster-than-light travel using methods that do not appear in any Federation research." The human faster-than-light technology appeared to be based on manipulating space itself, rather than the dimensional folding techniques that Federation ships used. Their engines were smaller and more efficient, while requiring less exotic materials than standard Federation drives. "How long have they been traveling between star systems?" Captain Zethkar asked, while he tried to understand the timeline of human expansion. "According to the ship's logs, they have been exploring beyond their home system for over 50 years, Hintal replied, while she accessed more historical data. "They have visited dozens of star systems that do not appear in our navigation charts." Dr. Quilles made another disturbing discovery when he found the ship's central computer core and managed to activate a section that had been in standby mode since the crew died. Warning lights began flashing throughout the vessel while automated systems started running emergency protocols. "I think I activated some kind of distress signal," he reported while the ship's systems came to life around them. "The computer appears to be running automatic emergency procedures." The ship's main display screens lit up while showing status. Reports in the human language and various automated systems began performing diagnostic checks. Security Chief Kratum noticed that several compartments that had been sealed were now opening, while mechanical sounds echoed through the corridors. "Captain, we should consider leaving the vessel immediately," he advised while he monitored the changing situation. "We do not know what these emergency systems might do." Before anyone could respond, the ship's central computer announced something in the human language, while the translation software worked to decode the message. When the translation appeared, on their displays everyone realized that their investigation had taken a dramatic turn. "Cryogenic revival sequence initiated for surviving crew member in emergency stasis pod 7, the computer announced, while mechanical systems throughout the ship began operating at higher levels. "There is a living human aboard this vessel, Dr. Quilles said while he looked at his medical scanner readings. "The revival process has already begun and we cannot stop it without potentially killing whoever is in that stasis pod." The boarding party followed the ship's internal maps to the location of Stasis Pod 7, while automated systems prepared for the revival of whatever human had survived in cryogenic sleep. The stasis chamber was located in a heavily protected section of the ship that had maintained power throughout the years the vessel had drifted in space. The bio readings show a healthy adult male human who has been in suspended animation for approximately 30 years, Dr. Quillis reported while he monitored the revival process. His life signs are stable, and the computer systems appear to be following proper medical procedures. Captain Zethkar faced an impossible decision while he watched the human revival process continue around them. Federation protocols strictly forbade interfering with unknown biological processes, but they were already too deep into the situation to withdraw safely. "How long until the revival process is complete?" he asked, while the automated systems continued their work. "Approximately 15 minutes according to the computer displays," Hintal replied while she monitored the ship's systems. "The human should regain consciousness gradually as his body temperature returns to normal levels." The stasis pod began, warming while circulation systems pumped nutrients into the sleeping human's body, and respiratory equipment prepared to support independent breathing. Everyone watched nervously while the most significant first contact event in galactic history was about to take place, whether they were ready for it or not. "What do we know about this individual?" Security Chief Kratwum asked while he checked his weapons to make sure they were ready for any possible threat. "The computer files identify him as Jake Sullivan, and he was the ship's exploration engineer," Communications Officer Hintal reported while she accessed the crew records. "He was placed in emergency stasis when the ship suffered critical system failures that killed the rest of the crew." The revival process continued while the boarding party prepared to meet the first living human that any Federation citizen had ever encountered. Jake Sullivan was about to wake up in a galaxy that was very different from the one he had known when he went into cryogenic sleep 30 years earlier. His brain activity is increasing and muscle response is returning to normal levels, Dr. Quillis observed while he watched the medical displays. "He will regain consciousness within the next few minutes." Captain Zethkar realized that everything was about to change for both civilizations as the first human in Federation space prepared to open his eyes. Jake Sullivan opened his eyes slowly, while his mind struggled to process what had happened and where he was, as the cryogenic revival systems finished bringing him back to consciousness after 30 years in suspended animation. His first instinct was to assess his surroundings for potential threats while his body gradually regained full motor function. The human sat up carefully in the stasis pod, while he looked around the chamber and noticed several strange beings watching him with obvious nervousness. Jake's training as an exploration engineer had prepared him for many unexpected situations, but waking up to find aliens aboard his ship was not something anyone could have anticipated. "Easy there, friend," he said in a calm voice while he raised his hands to show he was not threatening anyone. "I am Jake Sullivan from the Colonial Survey Division, and this is my ship, so I would appreciate knowing who you are and what you are doing here." Communications Officer Hintal quickly activated her translation equipment while Jake spoke, and within moments the software converted his words into Federation standard language. The boarding party was amazed that the humans' first reaction to finding aliens was curiosity, rather than fear or panic. "We are from the Galactic Federation and we found your vessel drifting in space," Captain Zethkar replied through the translation system while he studied Jake's remarkably calm behavior. "We were investigating your ship when we accidentally activated your revival systems." Jake nodded while he processed this information and began asking questions that showed his practical mindset. "How long was I in stasis and what happened to the rest of my crew?" he asked while he checked the medical displays on the stasis pod. "According to your ship's computer, you have been in suspended animation for approximately 30 years, and we found the bodies of 11 other humans throughout the vessel," Dr. Quillis explained while he monitored Jake's vital signs. The human was quiet for several moments while he absorbed the news about his dead crewmates, but his expression remained controlled as he dealt with information that would have devastated most beings. Jake's emotional resilience impressed the Federation officers while they watched him cope with devastating news. "Can you tell me what year it is, and where exactly we are right now?" Jake asked, while he began checking various systems throughout the medical bay. His movements were efficient and purposeful as he assessed his situation and gathered information about his current circumstances. You are currently in the Kepler 442 system, and it is the year 2387 by Federation Standard Calendar, Science Officer. Vexoni replied while she observed Jake's methodical approach to understanding his situation. Jake worked with the ship's computer systems while he accessed logs and status reports to understand what had happened during his time in stasis. His casual competence with technology, that the Federation considered primitive, showed that humans approached engineering problems from a completely different perspective. My ship's communication array is still functional, so I should be able to contact Earth and let them know what happened, he said, while he began activating various systems throughout the vessel. They will want to know about this first contact situation. Captain Zethkar realized with growing concern that Jake was planning to report their encounter to his own government, and the implications of human civilization, learning about the Federation, were staggering. A species from a Class 15 Deathworld, knowing about the galactic community could change everything. Before you contact your people, we should discuss this situation, the captain said while he tried to buy time to think about their options. Your species represents something completely new to us, and we need to understand the implications. Jake studied the alien captain while he considered the political and military aspects of first contact between their civilizations. His assessment of the Federation crew was pragmatic as he evaluated their capabilities and potential threats to human interests. From what I can see, your people have advanced technology, but you seem to come from worlds with much easier living conditions than Earth, he observed while he continued working with his ship's systems. That might create some interesting advantages for both of our civilizations. The casual way Jake mentioned living conditions that would be lethal to most Federation species demonstrated the vast difference between human and galactic perspectives on what constituted a hostile environment. His matter-of-fact attitude toward surviving on a Class 15 Deathworld was both impressive and terrifying. We have been monitoring communications from your home world, and it appears that humans have established colonies on multiple planets. Communications, Officer Hintal reported while she showed Jake the intercepted signals. Jake nodded while he listened to the familiar voices from Earth speaking about supply missions and terraforming projects that were proceeding on schedule. The human expansion into space had continued during his 30 years in stasis, and humanity was now established across several star systems. Earth has been busy while I was sleeping, he said while he smiled at hearing news from home. It sounds like the colonial expansion program has been very successful, and we now have permanent settlements on worlds throughout local space. The Federation boarding party began to understand that they were not dealing with a single lost explorer, but rather with a representative of an expanding civilization that viewed most of the galaxy as comfortable territory rather than dangerous frontier. Space. Your people have been terraforming worlds that we classified as uninhabitable, Science Officer Vexoni said, while she tried to understand human capabilities. How is that possible with your technology level? Jake looked at the alien scientist with amusement while he considered how to explain human engineering philosophy to beings who had never faced real survival challenges in their comfortable galactic civilization. When you evolve on a world that tries to kill you every day, you learn to make hostile environments work for you rather than working around them, he explained while he activated his ship's communication array. We do not avoid dangerous places, but instead we change them into places where we can thrive. Captain Zethkar watched while Jake prepared to send a message toward Earth and realized that the age of human isolation was ending. Both civilizations were about to discover that the galaxy was much more complicated than either had imagined. Jake finished his preparations while he looked at the Federation officers with the expression that was both friendly and calculating. I think both of our peoples are going to find this very interesting, he said, while he activated the transmission system and sent a coded message toward home with news that would change everything for humanity and the galaxy.